Elias Kofi didn't come to Europe to become rich. He came to disappear. Not because he was running from the police, not because he was hiding from crime, but because back home in Ghana, his father had died and left behind something Elias never wanted. Debt. Big debt. The kind of debt that makes people call you at night. The kind of debt that makes strangers know your name. So Elias did what thousands of men do every year. He left. And when he arrived in London, he promised himself one thing: I will live clean. No shortcuts, no gambling, no shady deals, just work. For 2 years, Elias worked as a night shift cleaner in an office building near Canary Wharf. He saved money slowly, he ate cheap food, he lived in a tiny room, and he didn't trust anyone. Because Elias had learned something early in life. When you're poor, trust is expensive. The trip. One winter morning, Elias finally got good news. A small legal company in Paris offered him a job interview. Not a big job, not a fancy job, but a stable job, a contract, a chance to start over. Elias bought a Eurostar ticket, London to Paris. He packed a small travel bag, and at the last moment, he decided to bring something special, a brown envelope. Inside were all his documents, passport copies, bank statements, his CV, reference letters, and one old photo of his father. That envelope was his future. The suitcase. At St Pancras station, Elias sat in the waiting area. The station was crowded. Tourists, business people, families. Elias kept his bag close. Then, something happened. A woman in a red coat sat next to him. She looked nervous. She had a suitcase. Black suitcase. Expensive. She kept checking her phone. Then she stood up suddenly and said, "Sorry, can you watch my suitcase for 2 minutes?" Elias froze. This was London. Everyone knows you don't do that. But she smiled like she was in a rush, and before Elias could say no, she was gone. Elias stared at the suitcase. 2 minutes passed. Then 5, then 10. The woman didn't come back. Elias stood up. He looked around. Nothing. Now the suitcase was still beside him, and suddenly a security guard approached. "Sir, is that your suitcase?" Elias's heart dropped. "No," but before he could finish, the guard said, "Then why is it with you?" Elias's mouth went dry. He tried to explain, but the guard already looked suspicious. Then another guard arrived. Then police. The arrest. They didn't shout. They didn't run. They moved calmly, like they had done this before. One officer asked Elias for ID. Elias gave it. The officer looked at the name, then looked at Elias's face, then looked at the suitcase. "Open it." Elias shook his head. "It's not mine." "Open it anyway." Elias's hands were shaking. He opened the suitcase. Inside were clothes, a perfume bottle, and a small gift box. It looked normal. Then the officer grabbed the gift box, opened it, and Elias felt his stomach collapse. Inside were stacks of cash, vacuum-sealed, bundles, British pounds. The officer's eyes changed instantly. "Where did you get this money?" Elias whispered, "I swear, I don't know." The officer didn't believe him. And here's the scary part. The suitcase also contained something worse, a passport. Not Elias's, a fake passport with a different name, but the photo looked similar, too similar. The police officer said, "This is you." Elias said, "It's not." But the officer didn't care, because now they had money, fake passport, and a man sitting beside the suitcase. Elias was arrested, right there in the station. The perfect setup. At the station, Elias tried to explain everything. The woman in the red coat, the suitcase, the timing. But the police asked one simple question. If it wasn't yours, why didn't you report it immediately? Elias had no answer, because he didn't want trouble. And now, that silence became his crime. They checked CCTV, and it looked bad, because the camera showed the woman placing the suitcase beside Elias, then walking away, and Elias sitting there, not moving, not calling security, just sitting, like he was guarding it. It was the perfect frame. The police charged him with money laundering and identity fraud. And the cash? It was over £1.8 million. The court. The case moved fast, too fast. Elias got a court lawyer. The lawyer didn't care. The prosecutor's story was simple. Elias was a courier, a mule, a man hired to transport money. The fake passport looked like him. The suitcase was beside him. He was traveling to Paris. That's all the court needed. Elias kept repeating one sentence. It was not mine. But to the court, that sounded like every guilty man ever. Prison. Elias was sentenced. 3 years. He went to prison, and prison didn't care about innocence. In prison, Elias became quiet. He stopped speaking, stopped smiling, stopped believing in life. And one night, another prisoner whispered something to him, something that made Elias's blood turn cold. The prisoner said, "You're the redcoat case." Elias looked up. "What?" The prisoner smirked. "You didn't know? That woman, she's famous." Elias's heart pounded. The prisoner said, "She works for people who frame foreigners, especially men with no family here." Elias's hands shook. "Who?" The prisoner leaned closer. "They call her the Red Ghost." The investigation. After 1 year in prison, Elias's case almost died, until something strange happened. A journalist wrote about it, a short article, not popular, just a small piece. But one person read it. A private investigator named Daniel Moore. Daniel wasn't a hero. He wasn't a good man. He was an ex-cop who got fired. But he had one skill. He hated dirty police work. Daniel visited Elias in prison. Elias told him everything. The red coat, the suitcase, the money. Daniel listened. Then he asked, "Did you touch the suitcase handle?" Elias nodded. Daniel smiled. "That's good." The fingerprint. Daniel requested evidence. The police refused. So Daniel did something risky. He leaked the story to a bigger newspaper. Now the case went viral. The court couldn't ignore it. They reopened the evidence, and when the suitcase was tested properly, they found fingerprints. Not Elias's, someone else's, a woman's. And the fingerprints matched a known suspect, a woman arrested years ago for the same crime, same method, same station, same suitcase trick, same red coat. Elias was released, 2 years late, but free. He stepped out of prison, London air, cold, silent. Daniel handed him his documents. Elias looked down and froze. Because inside the envelope was a photo, not of his father, a different photo. A photo of the woman in the red coat, standing outside St Pancras, smiling at the camera. And behind her, a man in a suit. A man Elias recognized, because Elias had seen him before. Not in prison, not in court. In the office building where Elias cleaned every night. The man was a senior executive, one of the richest men in the company. Elias whispered, "No." Daniel said, "Yeah." Elias stared at the photo, and the final line hits hard. Elias wasn't framed by criminals. He was framed by the people he cleaned for.